Hello, everyone. It's Phil Amerson again with the To Be and Do podcast, where we check in to see if what we say we are matches with what we do and how we live matches with what we believe. And it's not always easy, at least not for me. And I try to find good people who help us think about the way we live and the world where we live. During this Lenten season 2026, we've been talking with pastors and folks who are shaping the future of the church. And one of the people I'm so glad we can speak with is, I'm going to embarrass you now, the Reverend Dr. Rachel Metheny, who is the
Yes.
lead pastor at Meridian Street United Methodist Church in Indianapolis. And she reminded me that we've known each other for 30 plus years. Wow.
Long time.
Welcome, Rachel. It's great to
Thank
have you.
It is great to be here.
You have been, well, tell me a little bit about why you're a minister. I mean, come on. There are a lot of other things you could be doing.
I I'm I know. I was just thinking about this morning because how long I've known you. I was an intern at Broadway in Indianapolis when you were the senior pastor, going to seminary, wondering if I actually wanted to get ordained. Um, Many times thought I was not going to, and our mutual friend, Mike Mather, said, "Just do it and get ordained. And if you don't wanna do it after it, then you can do something else, but just go through the process and do it." And look, I'm here 30 years later. So I listened to Mike. That's why I'm a pastor.
Well, we were laughing earlier because we both have survived time with Mike Mather, and you
Yes.
you have much longer than I. I mean, how many years did you and Mike work together?
We were, 18 years the second time at Broadway.
Wow.
I know, I
Wow.
deserve an award for that.
You
Yes.
do. And from Broadway, you went was that when you went to Kokomo?
No, from, Broadway, when my first appointment was at Avon for a year.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I did 2 years at Bel Air, which is closed, and south part of, Broad Ripple, and then I went out to Berkeley to work on my PhD. Then I
Right.
came back to Broadway, worked with Frank Sablon for a bit, and then Mike came back.
Wow. Wow.
And
Many,
even
many
at one point
years.
I want after my sabbatical, I thought about leaving. I was already on honorable location. So, you know what? I'm just gonna turn in my credentials. I don't need them. And Mike comes in my office and quotes some passage and about Jeremiah, it's telling them to buy land in a foreign land even though they're not there. And he's like, "You might need this later on." And so I listened to him again, and I'm still here. And of course, the church has changed so much with the split, and, I'm glad I stuck it out.
Well, I actually was lucky enough to be a part of your dissertation committee where, when you finished your PhD, and I am so pleased that, you listened to Mike, or maybe you didn't listen to Mike, but that you've continued in ministry, and you're now at Meridian Street Church in Indianapolis. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about that congregation.
Well, it's north of downtown here in, Indianapolis, in probably one of the most wealthy areas of Indianapolis. Um, the governor's house is just down the street. And, it's also an aging congregation when I came here. Still very active, still very vibrant. We still had, I think they still had 150, 200 worshiping on Sunday. But COVID really kind of hit them hard. And they also had some conflicts around when they came out with a statement of full inclusion, had some issues, some struggles around, when we had all the Black Lives Matter protests. So I came into this church and in a really heavy spot for the church, but it still had lots of life. Um, Not a lot of young families with kids. I remember my first children's moment. Now, this is July, so families aren't always around. I think I had, like, 4 kids at the kids moment, and I'm like, where's all the kids? Where's all the families I thought were already did that?" And, but in the last 2 years, I think I mentioned to you about a year ago, we started getting all these young couples showing up with small kids, and they just kept coming, and then they've joined, and now they're really active and involved. So very different than when I came in 4 years ago.
So I read something you wrote, I think I read it on Ash Wednesday about signs of hope for the future, not only of Meridian Street, but beyond that. Could you share some of that?
Well, I wondered if what you got was our, annual report. I'm not sure.
Could be, I
Might
don't
have
know.
been. Might have been because you know, 'cause, I've been in the church for 30 years, and I think about since I've been in the church has been in decline, which is one of the reasons, like, why stay in this dying church? And I always wondered, why are students going to seminary and becoming United Methodist pastors? We're just dying. And I've all of a sudden, at least my understanding is that's kind of leveling out, they're saying. And of course, I've seen that in my church, which with all this kind of growth. We had, 26 new members last year, and the majority of them were probably in their um, late 20s, early 30s with young kids. And and I was just thinking about this. I have one of the congregations that does not have screens in worship. And they've talked about it for years here, and there's really no nice way to put them in. Although we again thought about it. We had the money, we were gonna put them in, and, you know, just decided not to. And then you talk to these young people, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't want screens in church. We're on our screens all the time. We don't
Yeah.
want a band." And I thought, "Well, you're in the church long enough. What what everyone was doing 30 years ago is no longer sort of in vogue, at least here. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
maybe we're getting unique kind of folks, but they're not interested in what the church was trying to offer with the screens and the bands and so forth.
So what are they interested in?
Well, the ones that are coming in here are very interested in justice work. And just recently, after all that happened in Minnesota with the ICE raids, they said, "We want to do something." And so they started meeting. And, I think the first meeting they had about 30 people there. Um, and, I mean, they're organized and they're planning and, they just want to make a difference. Um, and so, Meridian Street has had elements of that here, although they've always been more focused on, helping people who are poor, giving, more focused on charity work. So doing this kind of work is really different. Um, and they're just bringing so much energy and excitement. This past summer we did a series on the gospel according to Broadway musicals, and they just loved it. I mean, they were I mean, there was just so much energy, and they brought so much energy. Now, there were other people in the congregation who were like, "Well, we don't really like all the clapping," and so, uh, can they not do that? So
So you've also been, if I'm following correctly, doing, um, sermons around movies.
yeah, we did. What I found, at least here, I used to never be someone that did sermon series. I followed the lectionary and sort of got that from Mike, who's always like, "Well, the lectionary makes you deal with scripture passages that you don't want to deal with." But here, these kind of lighthearted ways to come at difficult issues. Because when we did the Broadway series, we did Rent, we did Hamilton, we did Les Mis, and you deal with, a lot of tough issues, but in a way, you come at it in a way that's a little more, I guess, entertaining or they can handle. And then, yeah, we just did Pixar. So
Yeah. Well, and I've
same
heard
thing. So
some of these sermons that you're not devoid of scripture. You bring scripture to the.
no, we do have script. No, there is scripture, but yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, so the argument that's going on just beneath the surface in the nation, in the United States is there is there a revival of the church? And I'm not sure there is, but when I look at places like Meridian Street, and I see it in other places, they're little boomlets of new life and
I
growth.
like that boomlets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will last. I still remember when we began to welcome gay and lesbian folks at Broadway Church. I
Mhm.
was so naive that I thought, well, this won't affect the Sunday school. And to my surprise, these folks had children.
Mhm.
And suddenly we needed to, well, it didn't ever fill out that building, but we started to need to have elementary and junior high school Sunday school classes
Yeah.
because I had not understood the new population that was beginning to come to that congregation.
Mhm.
And so how many children would you have on a Sunday morning at Meridian Street now?
I mean, 20 to 30
Oh
probably.
my gosh.
They come up and then maybe there's more in the, that don't come to church. I'm just thinking the kids that come up for um I mean, at Easter last year, they had to put out extra chairs for worship, and they said, "We haven't done this in years here." And we had, it felt like 35, 40 kids up there for Easter. And so it is, and so we do have a revival sort of going on here. Um, you know, I'm not sure why. These young people that are coming here have already been church, but they were at kind of probably more non-denominational mega churches. And one of the things they said was, we finally looked around and said, we don't agree with any of this. Um, and so I think we provided that place for some of these young adults who are like, went to those mega churches because they had all these kids programs and they had a band and it was entertaining. But they realized, yeah, that's not who we are. That's not what we want to be a part of.
Your music and your liturgy is pretty traditional.
We're very traditional. We sing the Gloria Patri. I've never done that anywhere. Yes, never. We didn't do it at Broadway, did we?
No, no, no,
No,
no.
I know, yes. Yes, it's
Wow,
still very
that's
traditional. Someone told me the other day we had, 2 recently graduates from Butler are coming here and they wanna join, and so I asked them, what do they like about it? They said, "Well, we do like the tradition, but we also see it as it's still laid back, and you still talk about things that are relevant to us."
wow.
So it's, so yeah. So
That's
traditional
really
worship is
so what do you see as the future?
Well, right now, I'm sort of living in the moment and enjoying this because I feel
Oh,
like never, I never got to experience this really, to, um, to see this kind of growth, um, and excitement and energy, and, um, so I hope it continues,
well,
and
I have a theory, you know me.
okay, I
Uh,
figured you had researched this. I hadn't.
well, my friend Ed Kilburn, who was on this podcast a few weeks back, said that he calls contemporary music temporary music, and that there is something about, even though you don't agree with all the theology of the old hymns or
Mhm.
all of the liturgy, like really the Gloria Patri,
I
that
know.
there's something about, the liturgy that holds you even when move beyond it, and it gives you something to push against and to think anew, and, my sense is that, well, I think Minnesota and what happened there has re-informed the power of the church. I mean, I love people marching in the streets singing
Yes.
and gathering then in churches that evening to sing
Mhm.
together. And it seems to me that and of course, part of it is those darn Lutherans in Minnesota and that deep tradition. But it seems they tapped into some hunger that's there for, again, something that we can both appreciate and push against.
Well, and also here with some of these young couples coming, I remember one of them told me, "I was just searching for community."
Ah,
And, I think people I mean, we know this, right? People are less connected. Um, they might only have one friend, good friend. And I think there's a hunger for these young people to be a part of a community. Because they come to like a lot of the events we have that are just focused on getting together and eating together. They're there for everything. And I think they're really wanting that. Um,
I think you're
and I,
spot
I'm
on.
hoping I'm hoping, that pendulum's gonna go back to more people caring about community and getting involved in community. Um, because we lost a
Yeah,
lot of that.
yeah, we have, and ironically, the church of all places, uh, got off on these jags about some kind of technique, or should we have pickleball teams, or what, what's the newest expression that will bring young
Yes.
people in?
Yeah.
And it may be as simple as loving your neighbor.
Yeah. Well, and one thing Mike taught me is just having meals together for no reason other than having meals, and we do that a lot here. I remember one of the young families said, "Gosh, you're feeding me on, um, Tuesday for the pancake thing, you're gonna feed me on Friday for the Pixar movie, you're gonna feed me on Sunday for the mission breakfast." And, it's just getting together for no other reason than to enjoy each other's company. And,
Mm,
um, I think there's a hunger for that,
yeah,
because I think we're seeing the damage done with that certain generation that got so addicted to the iPhones, um, their lack of friendship and community, you know?
yeah. I think you're right on. I just had coffee this morning with a friend who said I was sitting in my chair at home realizing I had 3 screens around me I could grab, and none of them, could really, be my friend.
No, mm-mm.
Yeah. Well, the Reverend Dr. Rachel Metheny. We're going to talk with you next time
And it's
about
a
what you.
doctor that's a PhD, not a D-Min.
Yes, yes, let's get that
Yes,
correct.
yes. Yes, 'cause yes, yeah.
Reverend
It
PhD doctor who who ironically, you don't wear that on your sleeve. I don't see all these
it
stripes, when you
I
stand to
don't. I don't
preach.
wear the collar or anything, yes.
Oh, oh, shame, what on earth?
I don't.
Yeah, I always, well, that's another topic, but I always get a little, chuckle out of people who have to put all of their degrees behind their name,
Yeah,
and, what you put behind your name is community builder, and that's
that's
pretty darn good. Thank
that's what I'm
you,
trying to do. Thank you.
Reverend Doctor with a PhD who doesn't need to show it off, Rachel Metheny. And next time, we're going to talk about some of the spiritual practices that you engage in, and we won't tell them one of them right now, but you've been doing a lot of walking around the world, and I want to
Mhm.
hear more about that. That's Phil
Okay.
Amerson for the To Be and Do podcast. And this is Rachel Metheny at Meridian Street, United Methodist Church in Indianapolis. Thanks for this time, Rachel, and we look forward to the next time when we'll visit further. God
Thank
bless.
you.